There we go. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Yeah, we're just about to start another unit of our mastication of very dry bones, philosophical bones. So we're going to begin with some prayers to try to set motivation. Sangye chodang soki chognam la changchu badu dagni kyapsu chi. Dagi chunyen gipe sognam ki drola penchir sange drupasho. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. Through the collections I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit migrating beings. Sangye churang soki chognam la Changchu Badu Dagni Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chunyen Gipe Sognam Ki Drola Penchir Sange Drupasho. So try to bring back a remembering consciousness of the meaning of that. We're trying to set a motivation, bodhicitta motivation for listening to the teachings, because with the motivation of bodhicitta, all of the virtuous karma that we create becomes incredibly more weighty, more substantial, so more virtuous. And then offering a mandala, by offering this ground anointed with perfume and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and moon, visualized as a Buddha realm, may all migrators enjoy a pure realm. O holy and perfect pure lamas, from the clouds of compassion that form in the skies of your Dharmakaya wisdom, please release a rain of vast and profound Dharma. So vast and profound, you could say extensive and profound. So vast refers to the teachings on conventional truth, the Bodhisattva's activities, the extensive deeds of the Bodhisattvas and so forth. And the profound Dharma refers to, especially to the wisdom of emptiness. Please release a rain of vast and profound Dharma precisely in accordance with the needs of those to be trained or subdued. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayame. Okay, so Louise is here also. Good to see you. Yeah, if anyone has the message address of Nadine or Mikhail, maybe send them a quick message wondering where they are. So we're going to begin with a little meditation to try to set the meaning that we just enunciated in the prayers, try to set that into a more substantial form. So sit comfortably, relax your body, relax your mind. And place your attention on the breathing in front, that is to say, your respiration. And once you've recognized it, try to hold it with the mental factor of mindfulness. Utilizing the mental spy, introspection, keeping an eye on whether your mind is wandering or has lost the object completely. Try to take note of the degree of subtlety of your breathing while watching the respiration. We want to use that as a comparison when we meditate on the more subtle object of the nature of the mind itself, where you have to concentrate more, and therefore breathing slows down, should slow down. So now switch your attention from watching the breathing to the mental consciousness, that which is clear in knowing. It's not your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, or body consciousness. It has no dark color, white color, any kind of shape or configuration, boundary. Being subtle, we need to first infer its quality, defining quality, this one of clarity. So that which is clear in knowing, the clarity can have many levels of meaning, but here means the non-obstructing of the arisal of mental events, nor obstruction of or hindering the reabsorption of those mental events back into the consciousness, like a cloud in a clear sky, sunny sky, evaporates, and the cloud doesn't sort of move somewhere else as a cloud, but it reabsorbs, the moisture reabsorbs back into the air. Thinking in ways like this, that the very presence of mental events in your mind, irritation or elation or memories or plans, whatever, observations about the present, all of these are impermanent, and their very presence indicates that the mind offers no obstruction to their arisal. And they're oscillating, maybe for us, maybe some thoughts come into manifestation and then sort of disappear and then come back again. Rather than focusing on the objective events in the mind, the thoughts and so forth, images, concentrate on the substratum of the mind within which they're arising, the conventional clear light nature of the mind. Which, when we search for it in this way, knowing these qualities, hopefully a sense of joy will arise, recognizing I have this. There is no impediment to my developing realizations, eliminating my faults. My sense of low self-esteem or insufficiency or inability can be wiped away. And knowing this conventional clear light nature is also referred to as the conventional Buddha nature. the developmental Buddha nature. That means the nature of the mind, the conventional nature of the mind that allows the development of these qualities because it offers no resistance to their arising in our continuum. We have this, and it is incredibly precious and worthwhile to rejoice about. The fact that we can recognize it now is due to this auspicious moment that is very fragile and short-lived, this life of leisure and endowment as a human being. That itself, a life of leisure and endowment, the Buddha said was more valuable than billions of world systems filled with wish-fulfilling gems. You know, if we had one Aladdin's lamp or one wish-fulfilling gem, even with a limited number of requests, we would consider ourselves quite fortunate. But a world system, numberless, billions of world systems filled with wish-fulfilling gems, man, you could get anything you wanted in cyclic existence during this life, but it would not have the ability to keep you from falling into the hell realms, the animal realms, the predator realms in future lives. I think this auspicious moment I'm experiencing is incredibly valuable. It makes understanding that its value lies in what we can do with it. We can use it to develop our mind, our body, our subtle body, particularly the mind, to develop renunciation, bodhicitta, right view of emptiness. Or we could use it to become powerful and famous and wealthy and someone who has all of the pleasures possible, which is sort of sort of like the worldly meaning of the, quote, American dream is make $1 million, $1 billion. But the Buddha advised that the supreme meaning of this life of leisure and endowment, the supreme aim of it would be the achievement of nirvana and or enlightenment. The Hinayana goal, especially of nirvana, liberation from cyclic existence, so we no longer will be born in cyclic existence, our mind stream just feeling ecstasy for an incredibly long period of time, eons and eons, until our concentration, mental concentration, subsides, and we're awakened by the Buddhas to encourage us to take rebirth in cyclic existence again in order to follow the Bodhisattva path, with which we can eliminate the subtle obstructions to omniscience that the arhats abiding in nirvana have not eliminated. And for what reason? Why would we do that? Because all living beings animals, insects that we can see on earth, birds, fish, mammals in the sea, the hell realms, the ghost, hungry ghost realms, the praetor realms, the gods of the desire realm, form realm, the formless realm, all of them have a unifying factor of having been incredibly close to us numberless times. Even though they seem distant now, and maybe we haven't encountered them for many, many, countless times, they have been our mother in the past. And not just once. If you count back to beginningless time, each and every sentient being has been our mother numberless times. And although there may be exceptions to the case, most of those times our mothers have supplied us with, our body, our, education, pleasures, protected us from danger. They've been depthlessly kind, sometimes giving their own life for us. Every single sentient being they all are equal to us in having the ability. They all have the Buddha nature, conventional and ultimate Buddha natures. They all have the right to achieve enlightenment and nirvana. And as they've been depthlessly kind to us, our mind can turn to repaying their kindness, not just simply with material gift or aid this lifetime, but granting them their own special Dharma jewel of Dharma realization, teaching them the Dharma, and sometimes over a long period of time, maybe many, many, many lifetimes, the long aim of leading them out of samsara into enlightenment itself. To do that, we ourselves have to achieve enlightenment. This is the origin of the thought of bodhicitta. Thought, oh, I want to help sentient beings. I recognize my responsibility and my desire to repay their kindness. But in order to do that effectively, not just one lifetime giving them fish or loaves of bread, but teaching them how to fish or how to bake so they can have fish and bread in the future. In order to do this, we have to achieve enlightenment ourselves, which requires an accumulation of the collection of merit and the collection of wisdom, which are the cooperative conditions for achieving the form bodies of the Buddha, say the Rupakayas, the Nirmanakaya or Sambhogakaya, and for achieving the wisdom bodies of the Buddha, the wisdom Dharmakaya and the Svavavikakaya, the emptiness of the Buddha's mind. We may have an idea from kind teachers, conventional teachers in the world, our parents, how to collect merit, although we may not call it that, how to be good, to be polite, to be patient, but certainly not to the extent of the Bodhisattva's deeds and so forth, which we have to learn through listening to the teachings of the Buddha from our outer gurus. And we have very little chance of having an idea how to accumulate the collection of wisdom, which depends upon realizing the emptiness of inherent existence of phenomena. So that has to be imparted to us also through the teachings of Buddha. It's a hidden, emptiness is a hidden object that has to be first realized through inference. We have an intellectual understanding of emptiness first that we can hone and refine into eventually having a direct realization of emptiness. So the material that we need to study is what is the topic of today's and this whole class. Nagarjuna's Fundamental Wisdom, which is a commentary on the Buddha's Prajnaparamita Sutras, and our particular avenue for studying that through Chandrakirti's Madhyamaka Karikas, the verses that he wrote that are sometimes just memorized and studied by themselves, but also his auto commentary that explained what he meant in those verses, what those verses actually mean. The Madhyamaka Bhasham. And our text that we're studying in particular, a reevaluation of that by Lama Tsong of Chandrakirti's work that was many centuries before Tsongkhapa. So Khapa had direct communication with Manjushri, who told him that Chandrakirti was a 10th level bodhisattva who had taken rebirth particularly to elucidate the teachings of Nagarjuna, and he could be relied on 100%. So think, I'm going to participate in our study of Lama Tsongkhapa's Gompa Rapsal, Illumination of the Intention, his illuminating the intention of Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti, what they intended in explaining about emptiness especially, and also on the method side. I'm going to participate today in order to accumulate the two collections for the sake of becoming a Buddha, in order to repay all our mother sentient beings, to bring them out of suffering into everlasting happiness of enlightenment. That's my goal. I'm listening today in order to achieve enlightenment for the sake of mother sentient beings. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. Hi, Mikhail. Hi, Nadine. Good to see you. Rachel's here also. And Minto, so my fellow MIT graduate. So we're going to recite now the foundation of all good qualities. Well, you could say the foundation of qualities. Yondin in Tibetan, what is that in Sanskrit? Guna, I think, right? It refers to, mainly it's referring to good qualities. It doesn't mean just like quality of being dirty or, it refers. So you could translate it as good qualities. This was composed by Lama Khapa. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and perfect guru. Correctly following the guru is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely on the spiritual master with great respect. When I have discovered the precious freedom of this rebirth, which is found only once, this refers to this auspicious moment of leisure and endowment, and is extremely difficult to find again. Even now, it's uncertain how many causes we've created to find a human rebirth again, and is greatly meaningful in that we can achieve nirvana or enlightenment with it, or change the whole course of our future lives by developing Buddhist realizations. Having realized this, discovered these, please bless me to unceasingly generate the mind that takes its essence both day and night. Yeah. This body. Oh, someone want to say something? This body and life are changing like a water bubble. They're impermanent, transient, very sensitive, remembering how quickly they perish, the body and life force, and how quickly death comes, and the fact that after death, just as a shadow follows the body, never separated from it. Of course, if there's no sunlight or no light, there's no shadow, but talking about the being in the light, just like the shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. We can't avoid them. When I have found definite conviction in this, please bless me to be always conscientious in abandoning even the slightest collection of shortcomings and accomplishing all virtuous deeds. So please bless me to be very careful in abandoning even the smallest negative karmas and going out of our way to accomplish every virtuous deed that is at our disposal, even when we're washing the dishes or, washing the clothes. I saw some TV commercial for audiobooks or something that the lady said she was hearing the story of some romantic adventure, some kingdom or something, and then it said all the time she was sitting there while her clothes were drying. I would think much better to meditate while your clothes are drying and thinking like this, may I, dry up all of the shortcomings of sentient beings, myself, and bring them into this state of enlightenment. When I have recognized the shortcomings, the faults of the samsaric perfections, wealth and so forth, that there is no satisfaction in enjoying them. There's no ultimate satisfaction. They can bring some short-term satisfaction, but we never get rid of that itch to want them. We want more power, more money, more pleasure. That they are the door to all suffering. Rebirth, for instance. taking rebirth again. We might think, oh, that'd be good if I could be reborn again. But that would be the doorway to continued suffering. It would be better to be able to reach a state at the time of death where we would not take rebirth, where we would be in nirvana or enlightenment. And the fact that they're not reliable. They can't be trusted. The things that we consider to be sources of happiness can become sources of suffering. Understanding this, please bless me to generate the strong wish for the bliss of liberation. So this is a thought of the person of intermediate scope. Through my being led by this pure thought, with great mindfulness, alertness, and conscientiousness, please bless me to make keeping the individual liberation vows, the root of the teachings, my essential practice. In other words, at this point, our essential practice can vary at various stages of our spiritual path. At the beginning, we need to take the keeping of the vows of liberation, pratimoksha vows, not to kill or steal and so forth. That is the essence of our practice. And then, just as I have fallen, I am immersed in the sea of cyclic existence. It's not as though we've just fallen into the sea of cyclic existence recently. We've been here immersed in the sea of cyclic existence, of samsara, since beginningless time. So are all other mother migrating beings. By seeing this equality, please bless me to train in supreme bodhicitta, which bears the responsibility of freeing migrating beings, our mothers. Even if I develop only bodhicitta, without familiarizing myself with the three types of morality, I don't know, the even should be there. If I develop mere bodhicitta, just wishing bodhicitta, without cultivating the three types of Mahayana morality, the morality of avoiding negative actions, of accumulating virtuous dharmas and benefiting sentient beings. If I don't cultivate those with only wishing bodhicitta, I can't achieve enlightenment. Seeing this well, please bless me to keep the vows of the bodhisattvas, the children of the victorious ones, with fervent effort. By my having pacified distractions to the incorrect objects and correctly analyzing the meaning of reality, please bless me to quickly generate within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding and special insight. That sort of summarizes through the sutra path. And then when I've become, thereby having practiced this common path, when I've become a suitable vessel by training in the common path, please bless me to quickly enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme of all vehicles, the Vajrayana, the Vajra vehicle. And at that time, knowing that the basis of accomplishing the two cities, the common cities and the uncommon city of enlightenment, the basis of accomplishing them, of achieving them, is keeping my vows and samayas purely. When I've gained effortless conviction in this, Please bless me to protect them even at the cost of my life. Then, when I have realized exactly the vital points of the two stages, the generation stage and the completion stage of highest yoga tantra, the essence of the tantric sets, and when I am enjoying the yoga of four sessions with effort, without being distracted, please bless me to accomplish these according to the teachings of the holy beings. Finally, thus may the virtuous friends who reveal the noble path, Geshe Shenyan, Shenyan means noble friends, or the virtuous friends, may they and the spiritual practitioners who, along with me, correctly are accomplishing it, may we have long lives. Please bless me to pacify completely the collections of outer and inner obstacles, to render those obstacles incapable of obscuring and preventing us from achieving realizations. In all my lives, during all my lifetimes, in the future, may I never be separated from perfect gurus. May I always, as soon as I am born, may I be guided by them. And may I enjoy the magnificence of the Dharma. And by completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly achieve the state of Vajradhara, which means Buddha, but from the sense of the tantric manifestation of the Buddha. Okay, thank you. So good to see you all. Wondering if anyone has any questions, doubts, Dharma itches? Nothing? Okay. Suvash, how about you? You okay? Yeah, good, okay. Richard, nothing? KT, or you just went off screen? Yeah, okay. So, yeah. So let's get back to our text. We are at a point where mentioned in our last class of the last section. In Thupten Jinpa's written text, it's page 323. 23 is my lucky number. That's my birthday. I always look for seats on the airplane, 23 or 13. Those are my favorites. So 323 from Jinpa's book, FPMT, page 182. So what are we talking about here? We're studying Lama Tsongkhapa's Gompa Rapso, which is essentially a commentary explaining Chandrakirti's commentary, hopefully, sometimes abbreviating certain places where Chandrakirti gives more detail, and sometimes elaborating on what Chandrakirti had said beyond, many more words. So it's a good companion to the Madhyamakavatara Bhashyam. Chandrakirti here we're still talking about the establishing the emptiness of phenomena by the fourfold method that phenomena are not produced. Well, you'd have to apply it to impermanent phenomena, right? They're not produced from themselves, from something which is inherently different than them, from something which is both self and different, nor are things produced or arise do they arise causelessly? So we're on the second of those outlines still, and with a long digression here by Chandrakirti in refuting the Chittamatra system from the point of view of the Prasangika. So many other scholars had their own take on refuting the Chittamatra system, but here this is particularly from the Prasangika point of view. So we've just reached this point, the last outline, what was it called? Refuting the opponent's restatement that external reality, that consciousness inherently exists without external reality. I've added an extra word there. So we've already refuted the Chittamatra, that's the opponent's statement that there is that consciousness inherently exists, but I say there's no external reality, but the consciousness to which it appears that way does inherently exist. That's their position. So we refuted that before. Now they're in the process of trying again. Okay, so we did that, stating the opponent's position. Remember, we said there are two things. You have to state the opponent's position first before you refute it. So having presented their standpoints thus far with the view of still achieving their aim, I'm going back, reviewing just from the last outline there. The Chittamatra may once again assert their own standpoint. And so they said, the arisal of visual perception takes place from its own potentiality, wholly and at once. This is verse 662. This potentiality, so that's something they believe is imprinted on the alaya vijnana, which is the basis of such consciousness, such as visual perception and so forth, is what is termed the physical eye organ. So this is one of their esoteric points, that the Chittamatra points that there is not a physical sense organ like all of the other tenets hold, other than those that follow Chittamatra. We say that the eye faculty involves some subtle matter in the back of our eye, maybe within the retina, in the retina. But the Chittamatra says that there is no physical eye organ like that, that it is that just the potential that gives rise to the consciousness of seeing blue and the blue object that it's conscious of, that itself is the eye organ, the eye faculty. Okay, so that's where we had gotten up to. So now starting today, in this view, after a long paragraph, after verse 662, if you're looking in the electronic version and you don't have page numbers, there's a long paragraph, and then after that paragraph, it starts, in this view, the propensity, the imprint that is the cause for the arising of eye consciousness is its causal condition, while the eye faculty, which the Chittamatra says is not a physical thing, the eye faculty is its dominant condition. That's the same. That's the same for any of the schools. Well, they wouldn't say the propensity, but the eye faculty is its dominant condition, and the eye faculty itself is a propensity, it's an imprint. The statement made here of the eye faculty being an immediate cause of visual cognition should be understood in relation not just to any eye faculty, but to those where the propensities for the arising of visual cognition have matured. Okay, so that's where we're starting today. So in connection with this, there's a quotation from the Madhyanta Vibhagga. Is it Paul, is it Vibhagna or Vibhagna? Vibhagna.
Vibhagga.
Vibhagga.
Yeah.
Vibhagga. Madhyanta Vibhagga. Is that right? Vibhagga.
So yeah, it always trips me up, and I always check it, and it always Vibhagga, Vibhagga.
Okay.
It's like a long A.
No. So that means sort of like a differentiation or analysis of the middle and extremes. Madhyanta. Mad means middle, anta means end or extreme. So it's trying to find the middle way between the extremes. So in that famous text by Maitreya, yeah. So yeah, I'm going to read a little bit further, and then I'm going to ask Doris to post a PDF of Geshe Sopa's comments on this. And so we'll go over it again, and then we'll go over it again. This is a subtle section that just reading the text itself, you may not realize the degree of difficulty here. So in connection with this, so that's talking about connection with the I faculty being an imprint. That's what it's referring to. The Madhyanta Vibhaga, or the Utanamche in Tibetan, says perceptions of objects of sentience and of self, cognitions perceiving these do arise, yet no external objects exist. So here, this particular verse is verses 3 and 4, or for the most part, of that text, Udanamshe, of Madhyanta Vibhagna. That was the text I've mentioned many times that Lama Yeshe, that was the first text on emptiness that Lama taught us from the Chittamatra point of view. So there are five texts of Maitreya. Two of them are from the point of view of Prasangika. Three of them are from the point of view of Yogacara or Chittamatra. So this is one of those. The Utanamshe, or the Madhyanta Vibhagna, is a Chittamatra text. Okay, so in his text, Reflections of Reality, I'm not sure how I got this volume. I think actually Paul gave me this volume many years ago. He had an extra one. Can you see that? Is that, yeah. Does anyone have this text? Paul must have. I know him. Do you have this, Richard? Mikhail? No? Oh, okay. There were 3 volumes that Jeffrey came out with on the Drangne Lekshe Ningbo, the Lama Tsongkhapa's text that is the essence of eloquence. I think that's how Robert Thurman translated it. One of them was on the Chittamatra section of that text, but then 2 others were on various subtle points. And this one, Reflections of Reality, is talking about some of those subtle points. Here I have a $1 bill as my bookmark here. So in that text, Reflections of Reality, on pages 304 and 305, Jeffrey translated this verse as follows: consciousness to which cognitions of objects, sentient beings, and self appear are thoroughly produced. Their factuality does not exist. Since those do not exist, these also do not exist. Okay, so he translates it a little bit differently than Thupten Jinpa translates. In Robert Thurman's Essence of Eloquence, So that this verse also appears there. And Robert Thurman translated it on page 316. If you have that, I think all of the editions have the same pagination, if I'm not mistaken, the written editions, printed editions. In that point, at that point, he makes this comment. Thurman makes this comment. It is interesting that in this case, Tsongkhapa uses an idealist text. So that's one of the ways that Thurman refers to what, Paul? Idealist.
Chittamatra.
Essentially, instead of saying Chittamatra, idealist, philosophical people talking that way. It is interesting that in this case, Tsongkhapa uses an idealist text to show how even they, the Chittamatrans, or the idealists, recognize the contingency of consciousness on its objects. What does that mean? Because it said, the fact where the last line said, since those do not exist, the objects of consciousness as external objects, this too does not exist. That means the consciousness does not exist. So the consciousness is contingent upon its objects. So Thurman is saying, it's interesting in this case, Tsongkhapa uses an idealist text to show how even they, the idealists, the Chittamatrans, recognize the contingency of consciousness on its objects, albeit, how do you pronounce that? Albeit, A-L-B-E-I-T?
Albeit.
Albeit. Whether, unwitting of this implication for their fundamental consciousness theory. So he's, I think that's quite clever. Okay. So, yeah. The FPNT translation says, consciousnesses to which appear objects, sentient beings, self, and cognition. So I think this is a more precise translation because it's talking about four things that are objects. We'll see that in a while. So it says in Venerable Jones' translation, it says, furthermore, Maitreya's discrimination of the middle way and the extremes, which is verse 3, consciousness to which appear objects, that means like the objects of the senses, sentient beings. Sentient beings doesn't mean other sentient beings. It means, although even in the Sanskrit it says sattva, which is how we usually translate sentient being, it refers to the faculties. So what's the Tibetan word for sentient being, Mikhail? Do you remember?
Semchen?
Semchen. So that's how the Tibetan has it. So the faculties themselves can be called semchen because they have mind. They possess mind, when they're functioning. So her translation says, consciousnesses to which appear objects, sentient beings, self. So that would refer to the alaya vijnana, which perceives the self, but doesn't recognize it. And cognition, that means other consciousnesses, they all are thoroughly produced without external objects, without objects. And then, since they do not exist, that's one line that's Lama Tsongkhapa didn't add here. Since they do not exist, it does not exist either. So I think this is, so in the commentary, I'll read the FPMT commentary to this first. It says, the statement that consciousnesses to which appear objects, forms, and so forth, and sentient beings, then she has comma. So sentient beings here, or semchen, actually is not referring to actual sentient beings. It's just a code word, kind of like in a Dharani, some word that has other implications. What it means is the five sense powers. Those are produced. That statement refers to a mind basis of all. And the Acharya Stiramati, who we've mentioned several times, who was the disciple of Vasubandhu, also explains that the physical sense powers are the observed objects of a mind basis of all, of an alaya vijnana. Remember, that's what we're saying here, that when it says sentient beings here in the translation, what it refers to is the sense powers. They are within the sphere of the alaya vijnana, what it perceives. Therefore, those chittamatrans that assert a mind basis of all assert what appears to a mind basis of all as a physical sense power to be an I sense power and so forth. Okay, and in this, yeah. Okay. So let's see let's see what Jimpa's translation of Lama Tsongkhapa says for that. So after that, those three lines essentially, it's leaving off the fourth line. The statement that perceptions of objects, such as forms, visual forms, and so forth, right? So that's talking about the perceptions by the five sense consciousnesses, and sentience. And Jimpa has in brackets there, in parentheses, the five sense faculties. The statement that these do arise is a reference to the foundation consciousness. The master Stiramati, in commenting on this passage, so Stiramati was wrote a commentary to, I guess, to the Madhyanta Vibhagna. And so on this particular verse, the Master Stiramati, in commenting on this passage, also explains the physical sense organs as objects of foundation consciousness. And his note there, Jimpa's note 588, is just, okay, so this is not, this is from his commentary on the 30 verses. So I'm not sure when it says, Jimpa says, the Master Stiramati, in commenting on this passage, let's see, what did Venerable Jones say? Acharya Stiramati also explains that the physical, yeah, so it's not the reference to Stiramati, unlike what Jimpa seems to be saying there, he's saying that in commenting on this passage, it doesn't say that. He's just making this statement in another text, not in a commentary to the Madhyanta Vibhagna, the differentiation of the middle and extremes, but on a text called the 30 verses. Do you know what that is? Suvansh, do you know what the 30 verses is?
I think it's by Vasubandhu, right?
Yes, it is.
On the Yogacara view.
Right. Good memory. Right. So we've encountered it once or twice before. There's another text by Vasubandhu called the 20. This is the 30. And so in Stiramati commenting on the 30 verses by Vasubandhu, he makes this statement. So I think Chimpa's statement there, where he says, in commenting on this passage, he's not commenting on this passage from the Uttanamshe, he's just making another autonomous statement. So according to the Chittamatra school, which accepts foundation consciousness, what appears as a physical sense faculties to foundation consciousness, what appears to Alaya as the sense faculties, is the eye organ and so on. Having thus shown how there exist no faculties of the eyes and so on separate from consciousness, so having claimed that's the Chittamatra position, that there's no eye faculty which is of a different nature from consciousness. It arises from the ripening of that seed. The Chittamatra states the following to demonstrate that even material forms do not exist as separate from consciousness. So this is the next two verses of the Karikas of Chandrakirti, 663 and 664. So Jimpa's translation says, you say, although that's not really in the Tibetan, anyway, reading what Jimpa says, you say, not knowing that perceptions emerging from the senses, such as the simple perception of blue, not knowing that they come from their own seeds, with nothing outer to grasp. There's no outer blue, but the perception of blue comes from the ripening of the seeds on the consciousness. People speak of apprehending external objects. This is the Chittamatra position. And then furthermore, they use the example of dreams. In dreams, where no external forms are present, mind assuming their aspects arise from their ripened potentiality. Remember this argument, they tried to use the dream analogy to say that there's no external elephants, horde of wild elephants in your room, but if you dream of that, they can appear very clearly in some cases and seem like they're there, but in dreams where no external forms are present, there's no wild elephants in your room, the mind assuming their aspects, taking on that aspect, arises due to the ripening of potentialities in the mind. That's what Chittamatra says. Just as in dreams, in waking states too, in waking states also, the mind exists inherently with no external reality. So this is restating the Chittamatra position that's been already refuted, but now refuting it again. Okay. How are we doing? Are we lost? Paul, how are you doing? You okay? Richard? Okay. Doris is thumbs up. Okay, good. Rachel, what do you think?
I'm just slightly confused why the plural, the singular use of arises. What is in English, in dreams, there are no external forms are present. Mind assuming their aspect arises. So the mind is what arises, not the aspects arise.
So in the dream, the mind is present. The mental consciousness is present. There's no eye sense power, no mind of the eye or ear or nose or tongue or taste or body. But the mind assuming their aspects, so that mind takes on the aspect of the wild herd of elephants or whatever, handsome man or beautiful woman or wealth or you winning the lottery or whatever, you dream of, or nightmares. The mind assuming those aspects, even though there are no external forms, that arises, or you could say mind, if you like, minds assuming their aspects arise from their ripened potentiality. Does that help, or is that just as unclear? Rachel?
My brain is thick. I don't know. I think it's clearer. My brain is thick.
Kind of like pea soup. Mind is like kind of pea soup, very thick and viscous. Okay, we're going to go over this again. So then Jimpa's translation of Lama Tsongkhapa. So Lama Tsongkhapa, of course, as I've mentioned several times, in the original Gompa Rapsala, it doesn't have the karikas. It assumes you know them, and he just gives a commentary to them. So his commentary to those verses says, you say, and that's he's somehow playing from the way he translated the verse 663, where it says, you say that perceptions emerging from the five senses, such as the simple perception of blue. So this is not talking about dream now. This is just talking about, you're perceiving blue. Such example like that, or hearing sounds, or smelling odors, tasting tastes, and so forth. Those perceptions come from the maturing of their own seeds imprinted on the alaya vijnana, on the foundation consciousness. That's what the Chittamatra position is. With nothing outer, nothing external that the other Buddhist positions say, it appears that way, that they're external objects. There's nothing external like a blue object to grasp. That's the position of the Chittamatra. That's not earth-shattering. That's what we've talked about before, right? How are you doing, Luis? You've got also like, where was it? Our Australian Jeremy. Is Jeremy disappeared? Is Jeremy still here? Oh, Jeremy's there. Yeah, Jeremy also has a blankie on his shoulders. You've got a blankie on your shoulders, probably for different reasons. Okay. Not knowing this, however, this is what the Chittamatra is saying, worldly people speak of apprehending external objects in place of consciousness and accordingly cling to them as such. Not knowing that they're actually, Chittamatra position is it's actually just the arisal of imprints on the mind, that there are no external objects. People believe that they speak of external objects in place of consciousness, and accordingly they cling to them as such, but no external reality exists apart from consciousness. Okay. So I think, yeah. So this would be a good point. So let me just read the next paragraph here. Alternatively, so there was one verse that just talked about the objects being arisen from the imprints. Then the next verse was talking about the analogy of the dream. So here's the commentary on that. Alternatively, in dreams, where no external forms are present, mind assuming their aspects, such as visible forms or visual forms, sounds, odors, tastes, and tactiles, those arise from their ripened imprints or potentiality. This is the Chittamatra position. So just as in dreams, same way, in waking states also, the mind exists with no external reality. Okay. So Doris, would you be kind enough to post that PDF?
It's there. It's back a little bit.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Yeah, I see. Geshe Zopa 718. If you guys will download that. So this is going to go over the same material now with some of Geshe-la's comments and added some some extra material, adding some extra material to this. Even if you can't find it. There we go. If you just follow along, maybe it's more difficult if you don't have the actual text itself, more difficult to follow if you don't, but you can still follow. So I'll start. So this is commentary Geshe-la gave Geshe Sopa, whose reincarnation is now found. Some of you saw the ceremony at Deer Park, where I lived for about 7 years. A little boy at one point, after this long, several hours, I think, was going by, he was playing with a Rubik cube up on the stage. So that's the reincarnation of Geshe Sopa. So Geshe-la said on July 18th, 2003, in the afternoon session, he said the following. This is just slightly edited. Now the Madhyanta Vibhagna, so I've got it perhaps spelled wrong because Paul says it's Vibhaga, no N in there. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's the Sanskrit title. Arya Maitreya wrote 5 books, 2 of them from the point of view of the Madhyamaka system, 3 from the point of view of the Yogacara system. This one, the Madhyanta Vibhaga, or the Uttanamshe in Tibetan, this is one of the Yogacara system. Here it shows Alaya Vijnana, and in connection with Alaya Vijnana, maybe a little bit talk. So Geshe-la said he's going to give a little bit, extra material. Do you remember this, Rachel? Were you here? Were you in those teachings?
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay. Paul, were you there during the Chittamatra, this refutation of Chittamatra?
No, I was at Columbia by then.
Okay, you'd gone. Okay. So we had some people that were there. Maybe Sean was there. Here it shows that Alaya Vijnana, and in connection, should be a space between in connection, with Alaya Vijnana, maybe a little bit talk. In the Yogacara system, Alaya Vijnana is different than these 6 consciousnesses, right? Remember, generally from the lower schools, when we study low rig, which Suvansha is doing now, studying low rig, we talk about generally there are 6 consciousnesses. The 5 senses and the mental consciousness is considered separate, whereas the Chittamatra that believe in Alaya Vijnana, they add 2 more consciousnesses. They say the Alaya Vijnana and the defiled consciousness. What is it called in Sanskrit, Paul? The
Klishta Manas.
Klishta.
Klishta is defiled, and manas is, of course, mind.
So Klishta in Tibetan is what?
Nyunmon, isn't it? No.
That's klesha. So it's somehow related to klesha in some sense, klishta. Okay. So there is that mind, those 2 in addition. So here it shows Alaya Vijnana, and in the Yogacara system, Alaya Vijnana is different than these 6 consciousnesses. So in addition to the 6, there's the Klishta Mana and the Alaya Vijnana.
Yunmong Jen.
Yunmong Chen. Yeah, having defilement or having afflictions. Alaya is different from the 6 consciousnesses, the 5 sense consciousnesses and the mental consciousness. Alaya Vijnana itself continues to go without much changing from birth all the way down to death. It's that what connects us into the future lifetimes. So therefore, that's by abbreviation, ST, Alaya Vijnana itself is neither virtuous nor non-virtuous. It is always neutral. Did you know that? Alaya Vijnana is not a virtuous mind. It's not a non-virtuous mind. It's always neutral. It has the seeds of all of our good and bad karma and so forth, but it itself is neutral. Then alaya vijnana is a primary consciousness. It's not a mental factor. It's a chitta, and primary consciousness always has secondary consciousnesses. Chaita. Should I have had two T's there, Paul? Is that chaita just one T?
I think it's just one T.
Okay, that's spelled okay. So chitta chaita. So you usually we call sem and what?
Semchong, right?
Semjong, that which arises from mind. Sem and semjong, the mind and mental factors. Some primary consciousnesses have 10 secondary minds. Remember when we talked about I consciousness that realizes an object, it has the 5 omnipresent factors plus the 5 object ascertaining factors. So that would be the 10. Some have 20. Some of them have 5. That means that the 5 omnipresent factors. It always have to have any consciousness that exists that is a functioning consciousness at that time, not impaired, has to have the 5 object, not the 5 object, the 5 omnipresent mental factors. But this alaya vijnana always has only 5 secondary mental factors. It doesn't have anything else. It doesn't have wisdom. It doesn't have, any of these others. It just has the 5 omnipresent mental factors. What are those, Don? What are the 5 omnipresent mental factors?
Oh, I don't know if I can remember more. Attention, feeling. I can't remember.
So one way to start is that you have to make contact with the object.
Contact.
Contact gives rise to feeling. Then that you may think about it with discrimination, and then attention and intention, right? Those are the 5
Thank
omnipresent mental factors. It's always good to review. So these 5 and only these 5 mental factors are with alaya. Alaya does not have any other extra things, only 5 omnipresent mental factors: feeling, discrimination, intention, contact, and attention. In general, Geshe-la said there are 55, and I put in parentheses there. Generally, we say, when we talk about the mental factors from the Mahayana point of view, we say there are 51, right? Maybe it was the 55. Could Geshe-la have been referring to Abhidharma, Paul? Do you know? Or anyone who studied?
I don't remember. Sorry.
Anyway, he might have just misspoke, or he may have been thinking of something else. But in general, let's say there are 51 secondary minds. I like to remember that. I think I tested people in class. Is it 52 or 51? So 52 is the number of weeks in a year. So it's not that. It's 51. So you can remember that way. In general, there are 51 secondary minds, but some of them go with virtuous minds. Some of these 51s are virtuous, or they attend virtuous minds. Some of them are attendant to deluded minds. So there's a whole discussion of this when we talk about Lodrig. Sometimes with the sense consciousnesses, they have different numbers, but alaya always remains with the 5 omnipresent mental factors. Okay, so this is some background. So Geshe-la said, we'll talk a little bit about alaya. Because alaya holds so many virtuous seeds, as well as non-virtuous seeds, alaya vijnana itself is always neutral. Then alaya vijnana has an object. So generally, if something is a sem, which means mind, right, chitta, it has to have an object. what would that object be? Well, let's say, so mind is a subject, right? When we talk about Yul Chen and Yul. Yul means what? Do you know any Tibetan, Paul? Richard, do you know what Yul means? Yul means object, and Yul Chen means that which possesses an object, so that we translate Yul Chen as subject often, right? Is there any other way that people translate Yul Chen? Mikhail, do you know?
Object possessor,
Object possessor, yeah. Or in other words,
apprehender and apprehended.
yeah, that would be, there are other
Or
ways of
other
actually
words.
saying it
Yeah, sorry.
explicitly. Okay, so, so alaya vijnana being a mind, it is a subject, so it has to have an object. You can't have a mind without having some object. So it has objects. Here it says objects, sentient beings, self, and cognitions. Remember I mentioned before there are 4 things here rather than, in Jinpa's translation, I think it seemed like he was saying 3. I think he was conflating the word cognition in there. So that verse that we were talking about before from the Utanamche, when it talked about these various things. So it says here, oh yeah, Dondang Semchen Dak Nam Rik. Don means objects. Dang just means and. Semchen, sentient being or possessing mind, that's referring to the faculties that are sometimes the objects of alaya vijnana. Dak means the self that is conceived by the klishta mana. And namrik means other consciousnesses. I can't get my finger up there. Those are 4. Those are, its objects are 1, the 5 objects of the sense consciousnesses. So to alaya, there appear the objects of sense consciousness, whatever if your eyes see blue or your ears hear sounds or you taste or you touch, all of those appear to alaya. Second, sentient beings means the 5 organs or faculties. So they appear to alaya vijnana because those are imprints within it. 3, one of the objects is the self. The person is also alaya vijnana's object. Those are some of the objects of alaya vijnana. Everything is not an appearing object, but those are its main objects. Some of them appear to it. Some are power of that appearing. I'm not sure what he meant by that. Then the 4th object is, and alaya vijnana's cognition, that last one where it said namrik, that means primary consciousness. Namrik. So those are the things that appear to alaya vijnana, but it doesn't have wisdom. It is ignorant in that sense. And therefore, it doesn't know these objects. They just appear like something appearing in a mirror. The mirror doesn't know the objects that appear within it, right? You following so far? Making sense? Okay. So then Geshe-la then brings up this text by Vasubandhu, the 30, the Sumchupa that we were talking about before. So it says, Vasubandhu says in his text called the 30, Sumchupa, and I've forgotten the Sanskrit name of that. What is that? Do you know, Paul?
The Trimshika.
Trimshika, trim. He says in that text, he says, its nature is conscious of the object. It's, it's appearing to it, it's conscious of it, but ignorance means that alaya vijnana does not know its object. It doesn't, like in the same sense that something appears to a mirror, appears in the mirror, but the mirror doesn't know it, right? So in this context, Geshe-la quoted this verse from the 30, the Sumchupa by Vasubandhu. This is parts of verses 3 and 4. I think it's leaving off part of verse 4. It says, so verse 3 says, it is a consciousness not knowing appropriation and abode. That's the translation of Lempa Dakdang Ne. When you say appropriation and abode, always possessing contact, attention, knowing, feeling, discrimination, and intention. Where is it? Taktu rek means contact. Iche means attention, right? Then it says knowing. Rikdang dushe sempar den. So the fourth line says, in it, that means in alaya vijnana, feeling is equanimous. It is unobstructed. It doesn't mean feeling, it means alaya vijnana. So the feeling in alaya vijnana is equanimous. It doesn't have a pleasant feeling within it, because it does have the mental factor feeling, right? It has the 5 omnipresent mental factors, but it's always equanimous. That means neutral. Alaya vijnana is unobstructed and unpredicted, which is a common phrase within things. We say, Madrip lungmaten, Deni Madrip lungmaten. It is not obstructed, and it is unpredicted. What does unpredicted mean?
Venerable George, I think is that maybe a bad translation? Because I think lung maden can also mean like not indicated in scripture, if you take it literally.
Yeah, it can mean like that. But Lungmaten, when we talk about the feelings, that's often talked about as an expression of the feeling is equanimous. It's not. It hasn't been predicted that this act will give that feeling, or it will be virtuous or non-virtuous. So it's talking about sort of neutral actions and neutral feelings and so forth in some cases. So there is another translation. So in the fourth, so it's unobstructed, unpredicted. Contact and the others are also the same. That's one translation of that. So from the, there is a translation from the Chinese of the 30. So the Chinese were very interested in the Chittamatra, and maybe still are, Chinese Buddhists. And so they translated Vasubandhu's 30 stanzas early on. And in that, there is a translation from that, was it Taisho Tripitaka? So in verse 3, it says, its grasping, location, and knowing are imperceivable. This is meant to be translating the same thing, but of course, once the original Sanskrit was translated into Chinese, it was not done word by word. We talked about this many times before. Like the Tibetans always tried to have a particular Tibetan word for every Sanskrit word that was there. It was translated more poetically or generally. So you won't necessarily find all the same words, but quite pretty much the same. It is consciousness not knowing, no, sorry, translated, it's grasping, location, and knowing are imperceivable, and it is always associated with mental contact, attention, sensation, conception, and thought. It is associated with neither pleasure nor pain. It is undefiled and morally indeterminate. Okay, so that's what's when we talk about Lungma Ten here, that means when we talked about it could refer to a feeling or it could refer to an action. So it is not predicted by the Buddha. The Buddha didn't state anywhere that alaya vijnana was a virtuous mind or a non-virtuous mind. So the Chinese translation makes it more clear there. Morally indeterminate, mental contact, and the others are also like this. So Geshe has quoted this verse, which is not found in Lama Tsong Khapa, but it's being referred to, okay, because this is what Stiramati, remember Stiramati's comment that Lama Tsong Khapa was referring to was in his analysis of the 30. So Geshe continues, it sees, that means alaya vijnana sees, the object clearly appears to the nampa rikpa, the vijnapti, to the mind. So, yeah, like some things appear to a mirror, but it doesn't know them. Those objects appear to alaya vijnana. So those four objects that we talked about before, the objects of the senses, blue and so forth, sounds, what was it? The sense faculties, the self, and consciousnesses, those primary consciousnesses, those all appear to alaya vijnana, but it doesn't know them. Those objects appear to alaya vijnana, but it does not necessarily grasp or know these things. It does not know, quote, this is this is that. Also, it is an inattentive perception, a consciousness to which the object appears but is not understood or not ascertained. So I can see Sean is imprinting these various factoids about alaya vijnana's consciousness so that, yeah, he can give teachings on this in the future. Okay. So then Geshe continued, so we have always alaya there from birth to death. Therefore, that alaya is very neutral because it holds all kinds of good and bad seeds in it. This is just reiterating what we said. Yeah, Paul.
Just wondering if you want to take a break at some point, Venerable George.
Oh, yeah, we're going a little bit. Yeah, so let me just finish that paragraph. Let me see. Yeah. So we always have alaya from birth to death. So therefore, the alaya is very neutral because it holds all kinds of good and bad seeds. Consciousness to which these objects appear are thoroughly produced. That was from the verse from Uttara Tantra, not Uttara Tantra, from the Madhyanta Vibhagna, from the differentiation of the middle and extremes. Those objects appear to that kind of primary consciousness is thoroughly produced. De don me, from the Tibetan, their factuality, it's how he's translating dun, their truth, let's say, does not exist. They don't exist as external objects the way that they appear. That will be, no object means not seeing an external object. Okay, so we'll take a little break and There we go. So people are just coming back from their tea, coffee break. Um, what did you get, Louise? Did you get coffee or?
No, it just looks like that. It's actually tea, no
Tea.
milk.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just wait a second till people start to pop up again. There is Nadine. How are you? Where are you? You have a beautiful.
Thank
What's
you,
that?
Buddha. I'm a meditation place here, German. Meditation
You're in,
place.
which city are you in?
It's on a countryside in close to Berlin.
Oh, nice. Okay. What's it called?
Tropen Ling, I think.
Oh,
Yes.
hey,
Yeah.
excellent. This looks
Yeah,
very okay.
thank you.
So we are mostly back. There we go. Okay. So let's read a little bit further. So Geshe-la said he was then going to comment on the verse that's some of Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary, which was saying the consciousnesses to which objects such as forms, etc., and sentient beings, meaning the five organs, five faculties, appear, that is said to be produced is alaya vijnana. So when it was said is strongly produced, that's referring to alaya vijnana, which is not something that was clarified in the text itself. So then the line from the Utanamshe, from the Madhyanta Vibhagna that said Dondang Semchen Dak Nam Rig. Don meant objects, Semchen meant faculties, even though it often means sentient beings. Dak means the self, and Namrik means consciousness. Those are the four things that appear predominantly to alaya vijnana. Objects means those five objects, visual, form, and so forth. Sentient beings means the five organs, five faculties. They appear to alaya vijnana. So therefore, Nangwe Namshe Kewao She Sumbani. So that's just the last line of that quotation from the Utanamshe. Saying this, alaya vijnana, dun, external objects, visual forms, sounds, smells, tastes, and objects of touch appear. If you say that means that is alaya vijnana is therefore there is no external form, sound, smell, etc., but those things that appear to the senses appear in the same way to alaya. So we could say, there's similar kind of wording there. The same thing that appears to the senses when I see, see the trees out my window or see the car or something like that. That also appears to the mental consciousness, right? At least one instant of it from the Prasangika point of view. Here, the alaya vijnana is cognizant of those, or let's say they are appearing to alaya vijnana all the time. Okay. Saying this, alaya vijnana, visual form, sounds, if you say that, that means that is alaya vijnana. So therefore, there is no external form, sound, smell, etc. But those things that appear to the senses appear in the same way to alaya. Since so this is now in italics there, this is a different translation of just what we've just read from Lama Tsongkhapa. Since Arya Stiramati also accepts physical organs as the observed object of alaya, the Chittamatrans who accept alaya accept that which appears as physical organs to alaya as the eye organ, etc. So Geshe-la explained Acharya Stiramati. So this was the reference in Jimba's translation, and in Lama Tsongkhapa's, he only referred to Stiramati making this comment. So this is the comment that Stiramati was making. Acharya Stiramati says, appearing as physical organs. The physical organs were rejected earlier, right? By Chittamatra. They say there are no physical organs. It's just a ripening of potential. But what is being said here is that objects, sentient beings, self, and cognition. Sentient beings means the 5 physical organs. Remember the Semchen. The 5 organs appear to the alaya. Nangwa Mikdang Sukdu Dudu. That's from the Stiramati's commentary to the 30 stanzas. Whatever appearance that is the eye organ. So therefore, accept that which appears as physical organs to the alaya as the eye organ. So that which appears as a physical organ, which is not really physical, is accepted as the eye organ. And then continuing, having indicated eye organs and so forth that are different from consciousness as non-existent. So Geshe-la is playing a little bit here. He says, so do the physical organs appear to alaya? What do you think, David? The sense faculties appear? Yeah, they appear. That was one of the things, the 4 things that appear. One, the sentient beings means faculties, but it doesn't mean a physical. It means what appears to be physical, but is just an imprint on the mind that does appear to alaya. So Geshe-la is joking here or playing with us. So he says, so do the physical organs appear to alaya? If the physical organs appear, is alaya vijnana then a mistaken consciousness? Because it would be a consciousness to which something that doesn't exist appears, right? Anyway, Geshe-la said, we don't want to talk much. That's enough. So in other words, there are a lot of debates with the upper tenets, with Chittamatra, seemingly contradictions. Wouldn't alaya vijnana be a mistaken consciousness? Because it's an object to which a non-existent is appearing and so forth. Anyway, we want to talk about much. That's enough. Geshe-la was often say, that's enough. Or what would Lama Tsongkhapa, what would Lama Tsongkhapa say, Paul?
It's like, fearing too many words, I will not elaborate, something like that.
Enough elaboration. Okay, so then he says, appears. They are accepted as the eye organ, etc. They appear as the organs by the power of the imprint, by the power of the seed, but there is no separate real physical organ that is a different entity than the consciousness. That's the essential point. They are not external physical things for Chittamatra, whereas for the other tenets, they are. Sometimes people say that the inner physical organs are physical things, but the citation above indicates that that is wrong, wrong from the Chittamatra point of view. The inner organs are not physical for Chittamatra, but are only the predispositions, the potential or imprints. In the same way, the following shows that they think, maybe what they think. Then in italics is a paraphrase of Gompa Rapsal. In order to indicate also forms, objects other than consciousness as non-existent, it is mentioned. So this is a prelude to verse 663 that we read about before. So he says, also when sense consciousnesses, I have to put on my glasses to see if there's an extra S at the end. Consciousness. So also when a sense consciousness looks at a visible thing or hears sounds, smells, smells, odors, tastes, and touches objects, those 5 objects are also not external to the mind, right? From the Chittamatra point of view, they are the nature of the mind. They all come internally as the nature of alaya vijnana, the nature of things to appear. When they appear, people think they are externally something, that there is externally something there. But from the Chittamatra point of view, that's wrong. There's no external world out there. Excuse me. So therefore, here, following this, there is no physical thing. So this is the verse 663 that we talked about. Here, it means in this, here means in this world, through not realizing that the cognizers that arise from the sense powers, right? So you have to have the faculty in order for a consciousness to arise. That's one of the conditions. Those cognizers, those consciousnesses arise as the simple perception of blue and so forth, the mere perception of blue. From their respective seeds without external apprehendeds, without external objects, beings assert that the mind apprehends externals. Worldly beings assert that. So in the Geshe-la's commentary was, in this world, the 5 sense consciousnesses that are the results of the 5 organs, they exist without external blue, without external objects of apprehension. Each eye consciousness, etc., they arise from the ripening of whatever seed was previously left on alaya, right? So whatever perception we have comes about from the ripening of a seed on alaya vijnana. When that ripens, then you see colors such as blue and white and so forth. You smell odors, tastes and so forth. They appear, those objects appear. Mere appearance occurs without understanding that the appearances occur that way. So that means alaya itself doesn't know that, but the consciousness to which they're appearing also, they can know those things. It's not as though it says mere appearance occurs without understanding that the appearances occur that way. Then, so here, this is an example that Geshe-la brought up that Lama Tsongkhapa doesn't mention. Remember when I've mentioned many times, sometimes Lama Tsongkhapa adds material that was not present in the audit commentary by Chandrakirti. Sometimes verses that Chandrakirti or material Chandrakirti wrote, Lama Tsongkhapa skips over. So this is from the auto commentary. That means the Rangdel, the Basham, Chandrakirti's auto commentary. For verse 663, for example, if you have, for instance, there's a crystal clear water there, and in the water, on one side, some kind of mountain or then trees. On the trees, some kind of special kinds of jewels that are hanging there, something. If you look down there in the water, right, you come up to the water, you see the reflection. Many times you can see it in a large expanse of a clear lake. When it's clear, you can see the trees on the other side reflected in the pond and so forth. So it's like that. Reflections, I say, if you look down there in the water, down there, something really there. Seems like there's something really there. Same thing there, reflection, same thing. They see externally out there in the water, but what appears in the water from the nature of the other mountain or whatever there is, that is not in the water. You don't have to, I don't have to tell you that, you know that, but it appears that way. It appears to be in the water, right? But the ordinary people are confused that way. That is the same way reflection when you see. So here is a translation, I think from my translation of the Basham, that verse 63. This is stated more just, without repetitions. For example, within the water of a lake completely filled with very clear water, there exists the reflection of red rubies attached to the branches of a tree that grows near the shore. The appearance is the aspect of precious jewels. The appearance in the aspect of precious jewels is indeed observed as an external object within the water, seems to be, yet that does not exist within it. There's no jewel tree within the water, although it looks like there's an external thing there. You can think of the same example of, a deer looking at the moon, the reflection of the moon in the water. It looks like there's a real external moon down there. And it should be applied similarly also to consciousness. Hence, an external object does not exist other than consciousness. This is the Chandrakirti's commentary on what the Chittamatrans are saying. So I need your help here. In the comment, in listening, making the transcription, sometimes Geshe-la, the English was not clear, so he said, sometimes joke, I'm not sure what he meant there, or some kind of tiger or some animals, when they see the crystal pure water, they try to go to drink. What do you think that could be? What would he have been saying there? Sometimes it's not joke, but it sounded like joke. What do you think? Some other kind of animal, or some kind of tiger or some animals. Anyway, so when some animals, they see the crystal clear water, they want to go there to drink, right? That's a given. As soon as they move there, their face appears within the water. Another tiger is attacking. And they escape away like that. Actually, there is no real thing out there, but his own reflection there, his own reflection is there. That is similar. Yogacara think, anyway, that anything which you see or hear or smell, everything looks external, but actually it is a reflection from the alaya vijnana seed and ripens when it ripens, and they appear like that. This is their own view, the mind-only school. So therefore, everything is of a mental nature. There is no mountain out there, no river out there. There's no Mercedes-Benz or, whatever car you drive, Ford or whatever. Also, no mountain, no river out there. About Yogacara system, no mountain out there. When you look at the mountain out there, is that what you see is your own reflection in alaya vijnana? If you see some kind of tiger out there, that is also your own reflection. If you see other people there, now again, Geshe-la's playing, all these are your own alaya vijnana reflections. Other sentient beings. Now we start to get into some of the problematic things that you yourself, class members, have brought up, how you could, if everything that you perceive, let's say if you talk about the inanimate world, that you yourself, or maybe include animals, no, don't include animals, you see out there, all of that arises from a seed on alaya vijnana ripening into the object and the consciousness at the same time. What about other sentient beings? If they are all on your consciousness, is there not anything there? So those kind of things, those questions will rise. So based on that, you can talk. Again, this is Geshe-la encouraging during the summer course, during the, we would be taught something, then you should debate with one another. You should argue. So argue doesn't mean like, heated argument. It means, philosophical argument, right? So there are some faults, some difficult things in the Yogacara view. So this is touching on another one of those things about talking about how we perceive other sentient beings, because they're going to have their own perceptions, we assume, unless we're the only person in the whole universe and all of this is our imagination. They have, we ourselves are appearing within their alaya vijnana, the ripening of some seeds. So it can get a little bit complicated. Meditation on hell being, so another point, meditation on hell beings in misery and suffering, all of these things, the 6 realms, all these become like imagination, your own reflection. There not being any such things that then is the beings accept, strongly cling to that which appears to the mind as blue, as external apprehended phenomena. We always cling. Okay, so then 664, which we were, I think, yeah, we read 664 from Jimba's text. In a dream without a separate physical object, a mind bearing the aspect of that arises from ripening its potential. Like this, here also, when one is awake, not in a dream any longer, mentality exists without an external. If that is said, so that's the Chittamatra position. So Geshe-la finished up here saying, another way they will explain, remember we talked about previously some examples, but here's talking about the dream. Another way they will explain is, earlier we talked, during the sleeping and during the dream, you have all kinds of visible objects, visual objects, visible objects. I've always debated, so it means, what do you think, Mikhail? What is better, visible object or visual object?
In French, visible would much be more like that can potentially be seen. It's not really visual.
So visible would be better.
No, visual, I think.
Oh, visual. Okay, I thought if you said it had the potential of being perceived.
Yeah, visible is only that you could see it, you can see it, not that it is an object of vision,
Anyone else have Paul, do you have an opinion? Visible or visual?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, is it it's a visible visual? I would think visual, just to distinguish it, because you have a visual object as opposed to an object of smell or taste. So I think it's more like describing the type of object.
Okay, so anyway,
Objects of the visual senses as opposed
I'm
to.
going to be like Geshe Soba here. So you can argue, debate. It's just something to think about. Whether when we translate, rupa, it's just the word rupa. But in the case when you're talking about rupa, it can mean outer forms in general. All forms are rupa, right? Like we talk rupa kaya, also the Buddha's form body. But when we talk about rupa with relationship to the eye, we're talking about those forms that are objects of eye consciousness. What are those forms? What are the forms that are objects of eye consciousness?
Shapes and color.
Good. Oh, yeah. Very good. Yeah. Shapes and colors. Those are the only objects of eye consciousness. So another way they will explain, so we talked about this earlier, smells, taste, all of these appear during a dream, but that doesn't mean that what you dreamed actually exists externally. It does not exist externally. In the same way, also when waking up, you can make that analogy. What appears to you is just an appearance to the mind. There's no external world. That is an example, because while awake, that doesn't mean actually there. That's the Chittamatra point of view. Without external objects, the inner mentality exists. That's their basic position. These two poles, that the consciousness exists inherently, it's real, but the appearance of an external world is just imaginary. It doesn't exist like that. And that is the nature of the mind. Those are the Yogacharas' own special kind of statement in order to establish their own system. So from now on, from here on, again, following the Madhyamika rejection will come. So we haven't gotten to that yet. So up to that, laying out the other system, the Yogacara system. So now you know the Yogacara view or system pretty much. Geshe said, yeah. What do you think? Yeah. You know more than we did before, right? Where we talked about before class. Now you know a little bit. And then there also, when rejection comes, you will know all those things. Now, and then, so he just read the next verse. So I'll just read it for auspiciousness. Just as without an I, this is what we're going to be continuing in Jimba's text. So during a dream, you don't have an I consciousness, right? You can, although it appears that you see things, I consciousness is absorbed to the heart chakra and so forth. Just as without an I during a dream, mental consciousness arises to which blue colors and, you know, different things appear. In the same way, like that, without an I sense, why is it not produced here in the blind through ripening its own seeds? So who's making that statement? What do you think, Mikhail? Do you know?
Yeah, the Prasangika refutation of.
Yeah, so this is now, this gets into Prasangika refutation. Okay, so let's go back then. So you have that PDF, you can read that at your leisure. So we got to the point, yeah, that's essentially where we got. So this is the next verse at refuting that position. This is where we'll start next week, in Jimpa's text. Refuting that position. This is the second outline. First was stating their position, now refuting that position. If the opponent argues in the above terms, their position would be untenable. You know, it's dene me ricte. Not to put a fine point on it, dene ma ricte can just mean that's wrong. That's not right. Their position would be untenable. To state this, the text says, so this is just as we said, this is the Prasangika refutation. Since without sight, mental cognitions that perceive blue and so forth occur in a dream. We all agree this. You Chittamatrans and we Prasangikas also agree. Why would such a perception not arise from its ripened potential for a blind person without eyes? Okay, so that's where we're going to start next time. Yeah, Sumash.
So just a question, Venerable George. The alaya and the alaya consciousness, these are also translated as substrate and substrate consciousness. Is that right?
I'm not sure. Maybe in some context. So you're saying alaya contrasted with what?
Substrate.
No, but not using the substrate or substratum. You said alaya is and something else.
And alaya consciousness. These two are translated as substrate and substrate consciousness.
Oh, I see. You're saying that alaya as a consciousness and alaya as a repository. Maybe. Yeah. I'm not familiar with that. That could very well be the case.
Okay.
Sure. So anyone else before we finish? Anyone else have some thoughts or questions? Paul, are you scratching some itch, Dharma itch there? Diana, do you have anything?
Would you repeat, please, the sentence that we will be starting from next time?
Right. So this is in Thupten Jimpa's translation. It's verse 665, 6.65. Refutation, in brackets. Since without sight, mental cognitions that perceive blue and so on occur in a dream. Why would such a perception not arise from its ripened potential for a blind person without eyes? So just unpacking that makes sense. I mean, there's a question there, and the commentary will elucidate. We'll continue next week. So on Monday, on discussion group, what do we have here from Anna? Where did I miss?
Just
Court
mute
Yes.
it as a host.
Okay, good. So on Monday, we'll have discussion group. We'll talk about Geshe-la's commentary here that we'd already read Lama Tsongkhapa, and we can go back to Lama Tsongkhapa again and read it a second time. And I think it'll become more clear what was being said then from these added details that Geshe-la added. Anyone have any final comments or questions? Jeremy, you okay? Nothing needed? KT? Don has something he wants to say. No? Okay. Sean? No? Okay. So let's dedicate the virtues that we created. Due to these virtues, Gewa Di Nyurdudag, may I quickly become a Guru Buddha, Lama Sangye Drubgirne. Having become a Guru Buddha, Droa Chikyang Malupa, De Sala Gopashok. So all sentient beings without exception, may I set them in that very same state, De Sala Gopashok, due to these virtues. So this is very, although it sounds very simple, it encompasses the sort of this motivation of bodhicitta through the dedication. May I become a Buddha in order to lead sentient beings into that very same state. And then the prayer from one of the verses, the prayer to Maitreya, I believe, which we use as a dedication, sort of due to these merits, may the supreme precious bodhicitta, which has not arisen in my mind stream or in the minds of others, may that supreme precious bodhicitta arise and grow. May it take root because of these virtues. And may that which has arisen already in my mind and the minds of others not diminish, but increase more and more. And finally, prayer for the swift return to see the face of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. As you know, His Holiness has said his reincarnation has arrived, but we haven't identified him yet. Peerless teacher and assembly of children of the conquerors, Shravakas, Pratika Buddhas. So that means the Bodhisattvas, Shravakas, Pratika Buddhas, all the various high practitioners. Victorious Losang, or Conqueror Losang, referring to Lama Tsongkhapa in the terms of him being an enlightened being, a conqueror who is the spiritual father to his spiritual sons, Gyaltsab-je and Kedrup-je, together with your Gelugpa lineage and Kadampa lineage, all the objects of refuge of the infinite realms. Please bestow now the virtue and goodness to accomplish this prayer. In upholding and spreading the Muni's precious, complete teachings through explanation and practice, those are the two ways to actually spread the teachings, right? By your own practice, people emulate you, and through the teachings where they can hear and actualize the teachings, you, Lama Zopa, wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, I make requests. Sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, while striving exclusively, not for one's own welfare, but for the welfare of the conqueror's teachings, the Buddhist teachings, and for the welfare of mother living beings, giving up one's own welfare and so forth, you suddenly departed to peace. At this I lost hope. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truths of the oceanic blessings of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the bodhisattvas, those are true things that we can call on the truth of them if one has high realizations, by the power of that truth, we're invoking that power to say, may the smile of a new reincarnation swiftly gleam in glory for us fortunate disciples. And then finally, you who are my eyes for viewing all the infinite scriptures, oh, my spiritual friends, my primordial gurus, my present gurus, whatever aspect they appear in, you are my eyes for viewing the infinite scriptures, supreme gateways for the fortunate ones traveling to liberation. Through your presence with you, it's like a gateway to enter into the path leading to liberation. Engaging with skillful means, moved by mercy, our spiritual friends. That's why they spent so many years studying and in enduring many kinds of sufferings in order to achieve the teachings, to pass them on. Illuminating spiritual friends, I make this request. And the implication in this context is please live long and stable lives. Okay. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you. So Labab Duchen is coming before next class?
No, it's on the 11th.
On the 11th, okay. So that's the descent of Buddha from the heaven of 33. So that's one of the great holidays, karmic multiplying days. So we'll have a class before then. We can remind again, then that's not until the 11th. So I look forward to seeing some good number of you. Mintu also, you should come to discussion group on Monday, Mintu. And we'll discuss this. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Same time, same station.
Thank you, Venerable George.
Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable.
Keep your minds safe and happy.